The idea that the church is a place where experts do all the work while everyone else simply watches is completely challenged by Ephesians 4, particularly in the perspective shared in the book Praying Through Ephesians by Dan McKenney. It's not a spectator sport, yet there's a specific, strategic architecture to how it's supposed to function that many of us often miss. In verses 7 through 13, there's this profound shift from the concept of unity to the reality of diversity, the idea that individual grace is actually what fuels corporate growth.
It's a fascinating transition because the previous verses are all about one Lord, one faith, one baptism, creating this image of a singular, solid block. But then verse 7 hits us with "to each one of us grace was given." It's like moving from looking at a mountain range from a distance to standing inside a forest and realizing every single tree is unique. That grace isn't just for salvation, it's what scholars often call equipping grace. It's the specialized power to do what you were specifically designed for within that larger unity.
The way it's framed in the text is quite dramatic, almost like a military victory. There's that quote from Psalm 68 about Christ ascending on high and leading captivity captive. That sounds like a Roman triumphal procession where a victorious general would parade through the streets with his spoils of war. It's a heavy image to use for spiritual gifts.
It is. In the ancient world, those processions were the ultimate display of power. The conqueror would return with the wealth of the defeated nation and, in an act of supreme confidence and generosity, would literally throw coins and gifts into the crowd. Paul is taking that imagery and applying it to Christ's ascension. By descending to earth, defeating death, and then ascending back to the Father, Christ became that victorious king. But instead of keeping the spoils, which are the spiritual resources of heaven, for himself, he distributes them back to his people. It's a beautiful paradox. The king wins the war, and the citizens get the treasure.
And that treasure isn't just abstract abilities. The text lists specific roles: apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. It's often called the fivefold ministry. But I wonder if we focus too much on these as titles or offices and miss what they're actually for. The text says they were given to equip the saints for the work of ministry. That word equip is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
The Greek word is katartismos, and its history is much more visceral than our modern equipping. In medical texts of the time, it was used for setting a broken bone. In other contexts, it meant mending a fishing net or outfitting a ship for a long voyage. It's about taking something that's broken or incomplete and making it fit for its intended purpose. So when the text says these leaders are there to equip the saints, it's implying that the church isn't just a group of perfect people. It's a workshop where lives are being mended and prepared for action.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. If the saints, which just means the regular members of the church, are the ones doing the work of ministry, then the leaders aren't the primary workers. They're the coaches, or maybe the supply officers, making sure everyone else has the tools they need. It basically eliminates the divide between the clergy and the laity that we've seen throughout history.
Exactly. The goal isn't for the pastor to do everything. It's for the pastor to empower everyone else to do everything. If you look at the explosive growth of the early church, it wasn't because they had a few superstar speakers. It was because they had a mobilized community where every person understood they had a role. Some served publicly, others quietly, but they were all valuable parts of the body metaphor Paul uses.
But that leads to another tension. If everyone has a different gift and a different role, how do you prevent that from becoming chaotic? We see so much division in churches today over different interpretations or different ways of doing things. How does diversity lead to the unity of the faith that verse 13 talks about?
It's because the goal isn't uniformity, it's maturity. The text describes this growth as attaining to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. That's the ultimate yardstick. True unity isn't about everyone agreeing on every minor detail or ignoring doctrine. It's about everyone growing together in the knowledge of the Son of God. It's like a building, which is another word used in the original text, oikodome, meaning the act of construction. You need different materials, bricks, mortar, wood, glass, to build a house. If you only had bricks, you wouldn't have a house. The diversity is required for the structure to actually function.
I like that image of construction. It implies it's a process, not an overnight event. We're under construction together. But I think about how easy it is to fall into comparison or jealousy. If I see someone with a more visible gift like teaching or leading, it's hard not to feel like my role is less important. How does this passage address that inward struggle?
By grounding everything in grace. If your gift is according to the measure of Christ's gift, then it's not something you earned or something you should take pride in. It's a stewardship. The text is very clear that no believer has been overlooked. There isn't a single Christian without a purpose. When you realize that your contribution is essential to the health of the whole body, the need for recognition or the sting of comparison starts to fade. You're just glad to be part of the work the King is doing.
There's also a sense of protection in this maturity. Verse 14, which follows our focus, mentions not being tossed to and fro by the waves of every new teaching. So this equipping isn't just about doing work, it's about being stable. It's about having enough knowledge and character that you aren't easily deceived.
That's why those leadership roles are so critical. Apostles and prophets provided the foundation, the core truths. Evangelists expand the reach. Pastors and teachers shepherd and instruct. They're like the immune system and the digestive system of the body. They protect the church from toxic ideas and make sure everyone is being fed the word so they can grow strong. If the leadership fails to equip the people remain infants, vulnerable, and easily manipulated.
It seems the ultimate goal is a kind of corporate maturity. We usually think of spiritual growth as an individual pursuit, me and my Bible, me and my prayer life. But this text says God intends his people to grow together. The mature man mentioned in verse 13 is actually singular in the Greek, implying the whole church growing into one mature entity that reflects Christ.
That's a profound point. We aren't just a collection of individuals trying to be like Jesus. We are a body that is being shaped to reflect his humility, his love, and his truth as a collective. It's why the local church is so central to the Christian life. You can't reach the fullness of Christ in isolation because you need the gifts of others to fill in the gaps in your own life, and they need yours. It's a reciprocal ecosystem of grace.
It really changes how you walk into a church building or join a small group. You aren't just there to receive, you're there as a vital component of a construction project. And if you aren't contributing your measure of grace, the building is missing something. It's both an encouraging and a challenging reality.
It forces us to ask, what is the work of ministry I am called to? For some, it might be the ministry of encouragement or hospitality or administration or prayer. These aren't lesser gifts. In the body metaphor, the internal organs are invisible, but you can't live without them. The visibility of a gift has nothing to do with its necessity.
And the ultimate beneficiary of all this growth is the glory of God. When the church functions this way, when leaders equip and saints serve, and everyone grows in knowledge and love, it becomes a living testimony of Christ's victory. It shows the world that the King has indeed ascended and is still active, still giving, still building.
It's the fulfillment of Christ's prayer for unity, not a forced institutional unity, but a dynamic, organic unity that comes from being connected to the same head. As we move toward that fullness, our character begins to align with his. We start to act with the same grace and truth that he showed. That's the real measure of success for a church. Not the size of the building or the budget, but the maturity of the people.
The depth of this architecture is truly staggering. From the cosmic victory of Christ to the specific mending of an individual's life, all for the purpose of creating a unified, mature community. It's a vision that's as relevant now as it was when it was first written. It calls us away from passivity and into a life of active, humble service.
It also reminds us to be grateful for the people God has placed in our lives to equip us. We didn't get to where we are on our own. We've all been taught, encouraged, or even corrected by others. Recognizing that lineage of grace helps us stay humble and keeps us focused on passing that grace along to the next person.
Which brings us back to that central idea. Every believer has a place, and every believer has a purpose. No one is on the sidelines. We are all invited into this process of building something that will last for eternity.
And that building project is fueled by the very same grace that saved us in the first place. It's a continuous cycle of receiving from Christ and then pouring that back into his people. That's how the body grows. That's how we reach maturity. And that's how we reflect the fullness of the one who fills all in all.
It's a powerful reminder that our walk with God is inextricably linked to our walk with each other. We can't have one without the other, at least not in the way God intended. As we reflect on these truths, it's worth considering where we might have opportunities to serve that we've been overlooking, or where we might need to be more intentional about letting others equip and mend us.
Absolutely. It's about being open to the process. Whether it's through formal teaching or the simple daily interactions of church life, God is using all of it to shape us. And as we grow, we contribute to a unity that the world can't replicate, a unity built on the person of Jesus Christ.
That's a perfect place to land. The goal is clear, the tools are provided, and the outcome is guaranteed by the victory of the King. It's a compelling vision for what the church can and should be. If you found this discussion helpful, share it with someone who might need encouragement in their own walk of ministry.